Hey everyone, what's going on? Needs more drums back in Rusinskiy for another episode of our City Skylines series, Journey to 100,000 People. And so today we are going to take a step away from this city and actually head across the tracks here and down the road to this city over here. And so this was I believe this was the second city that we built, and I'm not too happy with this. I've just kind of threw some roads over here as a little bit of a template for how I was going to continue expansion, and I don't think I really like that. So today is going to be all about expanding out this city a little bit, especially kind of out this way. I want to try to fill up probably even maybe up to here, even if I can. I'm envisioning a little bit of suburbs, maybe a little bit of industry out this way, like kind of have a little bit of industry here. I meant to change this to farms, but I forgot to do that. So here we are. But yeah, it would be nice to expand this just a little bit, and hopefully we can get, another 5,000 people or so in the city in the process. And so I know we have this huge industrial area over here. And the reason that I have this made is because I want to save some of the space for unique factories. And so as we unlock those, I kind of want to swap some of these industrial buildings for some bigger warehouses and things. So this can be kind of a big industrial hub, connected, to what will be another big industrial area across the highway over here once we start getting into the main city, which we still have a lot of work to do there, but that is for a later time. I know I've said that every episode, but I do want to start getting some of these cities kind of built up before we finally dedicate for the final push to that big city over there. But one thing that I actually want to do first is if we jump over here, we can actually see there's quite a lot of traffic leading into, let me just double check the names of these because I always get them confused. Ovashaniye, yep, this is Ovashaniye, this is Prospertania over here, I think. Yep, there we go, cool. So Ovashaniye, there's a lot of traffic coming in there. We have this, I should probably get rid of, I should probably add a turn lane here as well, which actually, you know what, why don't we take a second before we're even getting to the real city building. Let's just take a second, clean up some of this traffic flow here. I'll probably add a little road right here so we can have a direct route. And I even am thinking about making this an overpass over these tracks so that the traffic flow is not hindered by this this train crossing here. So let's go ahead and make a few adjustments, get this traffic flow a little bit better, and then I will check back in with you guys in a second. All right, the traffic's looking a little bit better, but not super great. I might have to come back to this a little bit later. Maybe I'll just put like a roundabout here because it seems like I don't know why these people are all trying to get. Well, I guess yeah, I don't know. They all got turned around, so we're all trying to get to over here to Olbashania, but they like need to go and make this U-turn at the end of the street and then come back. I don't know. It's just a whole bunch of it's a big mess. So I'm just gonna let this run for a little bit. No use trying to fix everything now. Yeah, roundabout probably would have fixed everything, but oh well. Here we are. We'll wait for this to ease up a little bit, but for now, let's go get back to the objective of the day, which is to build out this city. So I want to start by actually just demolishing some of this because I just want to start fresh. I don't like the way that looked at all, and it was just really weird, and I don't know what I was doing. So what I do want to do though is actually drag out this kind of a main road here, snap to everything there. So we'll keep that going the same direction. That'll make for kind of an interesting grid shape, I think. And then I kind of want to bring this street over to there. And now that will require us to, yeah, it looks like we're gonna have to move that power line just a little bit, but I actually think, let's just do this. I kind of liked how it didn't really go follow this road because it seems like, you know, this power line may have been installed at a different time than this road was put here. So, you know, it just gives a little bit more contrast and we can kind of do something cool with this area. So I want to leave that like that. But yeah, I think this is a little bit better of a start, and we could fill this in with some housing and a little bit of commercial maybe. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Maybe we'll put like a little sports hall or something. Oh, actually, we already have one. Never mind. We won't be putting one of those here, but I wonder if there's something like a hospital or something that we could put here. Maybe, yeah, maybe this will be like the site for a hospital, something like that, because hospitals are typically a nice buffer between some, you know, residential and commercial and industrial. They're a good way to kind of break up the grid a little bit. So maybe we'll do something like that. But for now, let's just kind of jump in here and we'll jump into a time lapse and just kind of see what happens, because I'm really excited to see how this is going to turn out. So let's just get building and again, see what comes of it. All right, so this episode is a little bit interesting because I actually recorded kind of like two separate time lapses. So in this first one, we're just kind of going about the normal way we usually build, just dragging out some roads. You know, like I said, I didn't really care for this area, and so I wanted to kind of start fresh, you know, delete some of the roads that I had in place. I thought they looked a little bit goofy and unnatural, you know, so I thought this might be a little bit better. But I don't know, for some reason, I really struggled with this part of the build. I didn't really know which way the road should go. I didn't really know where the residential should go. And so I decided for this area, you know, it was pretty close to some industry. So I decided for this area to build a hospital. This is a pretty densely populated area. We don't have any kind of hospital yet. I mean, we have like a little clinic, I think, in this city somewhere, but nothing on a larger scale. And I think this is the first hospital even in like the whole region. So this is going to be good for this city. You know, every city is going to have at least one pretty big major medical facility. So this is going to be the first one over here. And I like this vanilla hospital, you know, this European style. It's a little bit more plain, you know, very square, very simple looking, kind of goes with the theme of the whole city, you know, with the whole Soviet theme and everything. So I think it fits in pretty well. I did decide to add some parking, and then with this being kind of a bigger area, I decided to go and just make this sort of like its own little focal point. So we'll have, you know, once we check out this road, we're going to build a little bit of commercial kind of off the main road here, and then we'll just kind of fill it in with some trees and such to serve as kind of like a nice little border between, or a little buffer between, you know, the residential zones and the industrial zones. It's always nice to have things like hospitals or sports arenas, or, you know, just like bigger parks to serve as a buffer between that industrial zone and some other type of zone, because, you know, people don't want to live right next to industry, even though it may be convenient for a commute. it's still always nice to have something a little bit different in between, so you're not living right next to this noisy and polluted area. And in this case, this industrial area is pretty big, so I wanted to create a pretty sizable buffer between the two areas. So hence this hospital. And I know there's a lot of cars, it might be a little bit more American than anything, but like American themed, there's a lot of parking lots and parking spaces and everything. But I mean, there are cars in Europe and everything too, so we still need parking lots and everything, especially for something this big. But yeah, even though I just said I made a buffer between some residential and the industry, here I go zoning some I guess just placing some residential buildings literally right along this road. So kind of goofy, but it works. And again, with I feel like with Soviet developments, especially, and like Russian cities and everything, you see a lot of this. There's really not a lot of space between residential and like industrial zones. I mean, I like to do it, like, as I was just explaining, I like to do it because, in America, I shouldn't even say that, in modern city planning, it is not good to place residential zones right next to industrial zones. But that wasn't always the case. A lot of older city developments and everything have industrial zones pretty close to residential zones because they sort of thought of it as like workers, workers could live close to the plants and the factories. So they didn't, a lot of people didn't have cars back then and everything. And so it was easier for everybody to just walk to work. I mean, there wasn't public transit on a massive scale. So the closer they lived to their workplace, the better. I mean, I know where I grew up, where my dad used to work, we have a big steel mill and oil refinery industry over there. And there's actually an old neighborhood right across the street from where the steel mill is that a lot of the homes are abandoned now, because they're small and kind of, it's not a very desirable place to live. But I mean, they are literally like right across the street from the steel mills and stuff. So, people they were built for the purpose of the workers living there. And so, that's just what people did. They wanted to be close to work. And, you hear stories like back in the day of like the dust from the red mill dust, from the iron ore from the steel mills, like traveling and all the homes were all dusty. All the sidewalks would be, get all this red dust on them and everything. And it was, just part of the times, people still live there and they wanted to be close to work. So anyway, that's basically a long-winded explanation of saying why I put those 4 apartment buildings there. But, sometimes it does make sense. And you still see even in not so much in America, but even in like modern Russian cities and stuff, you still see some industrial zones pretty close to some residential zones. And that's also because like there's just not a lot of suburbia in European cities. And I know I've said this before and I'll probably continue to say it, but it's a pretty abrupt change between just residential housing and then either farmland or industry or a port or something like that. There's really no gradual decrease in density, especially in like Russian cities. And I'll get into that a little bit more in a little bit, but yeah, that's just something that I've observed after I've kind of looked around a little bit. So there I just wanted to put down some of these older European buildings because it is kind of, you do see a mix of that, in these cities. There's the old European style kind of row houses, but then in the 70s and 80s they opted for the more prefab construction that you might be a little bit more familiar with, kind of like those buildings up to the right now on the screen. But there was a point where the old like especially in Poland and everything, where you saw those old European homes, and you could still see that in a lot of older Eastern European and Russian cities. There's just like the old city centers have those very European style buildings with those kind of curvy roads and no set grid. Everything's just wall to wall. So yeah, you still see a lot of that in those older cities. But we're just gonna wrap this up here, this part of the time lapse, and then actually I stopped recording and took a break and then did a little bit of research and came back to the game like the next day and decided that this development was going to be completely rebuilt. So I'm going to finish checking out these roads and then I will talk to you guys in a minute. All right, everyone. Part two of the time lapse. So it's actually funny because, like I said, I recorded the first like hour or so of footage, and then well, sped up hour of footage, but and then I decided to do a little deep dive into Google Earth and look at I actually looked at St. Petersburg, which is a huge city in Russia for those of you that don't know, and just kind of wanted to see some inspiration and kind of see how things are laid out. And I noticed a couple of things that I'm going to implement in this time lapse and definitely in future builds, and it's really interesting. So one of the things that I noticed was the way that there's actually a lack of small grids. There are some modern areas and some newer developments in those cities where there's still like a grid layout, but it's not like in America where you have these small city blocks and just roads everywhere. It's almost like there's really not a lot of side streets. It's more main roads, and then kind of like detached developments that sit off on the main road. So it's like to reflect that, what I try to do here, you just saw me do, is delete some of these roads that I built in the time lapse just a minute ago, and kind of make these bigger city blocks, because these kind of get filled in with the way the game works. The buildings need a road connection. So instead of having these small grids made from actual roads, I decided to make these bigger grids from the roads and then these smaller grids from like pathways and little alleyways and stuff. And that's kind of how it is. You look at these developments and it's like they're sort of off the main road, and then they're all connected by like parking lots and little pathways, and there's like a lot of trees and everything, and it's just very interesting. It's not like America where there's a bunch of like houses next to each other and everybody lives on the same street. It's just kind of like there's a little block of residential like apartments, flats, and they're all connected by like parking lots and little pathways, and everything's very walkable. So you'll see a lot more main roads and a lot less side streets in these type of builds. And so that's something that going forward I'm gonna really keep in mind, kind of keeping my grid size, not necessarily grid size, but my number of side streets, making those grids. I want to keep those to a minimum. And here, one way that I feel like I can kind of capture that aesthetically is by making these disconnected avenues, so to speak. So we have these power lines here, and you could see that instead of using some avenue from the base game that would it's like a 4-lane road, I opted to use 2 one-way roads instead to create this effect of this a little bit more space. There's it's just how it kind of looks. I mean, I don't know, it was interesting, as I was looking on Google Earth and stuff, it almost looked like a lot of the buildings weren't right up against the main road. And here there are some, and I'm doing that now, but not all the buildings are like that. There's a lot of buildings that sit off of the main roads and actually face kind of like these the parking lot or the alleyway or whatever, or the small side street, if there is one. But a lot of it's not like in America, where you have these big commercial buildings like right off of the main road. You have these apartment buildings right on the main road. I mean, they still are, but just not to the extent that you see in different areas. So you'll see that kind of come to life here when I start placing down some of these other buildings. And so this is actually a mix. All of these housing developments are a mix of vanilla, like these buildings here, base game buildings, and a lot of custom assets that I found on the workshop. So I am really happy that I actually decided to add custom buildings into the game. I think it makes a huge difference in capturing the aesthetic that I'm really going for. A lot of, you can get away with some of these base game buildings, like these especially I kind of like, but a lot of the base game buildings aren't really narrow enough to work with like what I'm trying, like the vision that I have. So it helps, like, you notice some of these Soviet style prefab houses are they're very narrow, and yeah, just the base game buildings just didn't really capture that too well. And one thing that I noticed too is like I felt like I was struggling to capture the look And one thing that I realized that I was sort of doing wrong was making these housing developments too small. And when you really look at it, it's like these blocks of apartments will take up like an entire city block, between two main roads. I mean, it'll be like one giant wall-to-wall building, or like, these, how they're kind of like these U-shaped, or sometimes they're just completely like a complete square, I guess. All four sides will just be apartments, and they'll have like a central courtyard, I guess, in the middle. So, I just want to think on a bigger scale, and I think it really, really helps kind of capture this look a little bit better, because then when I went back to Google Earth and kind of looked a little bit more, I realized that this development that I'm building now looks much more similar to something that you might see in a Soviet style or Russian style city. So I like this. I'm going to keep building kind of in this way, and not to mention it's really helping us with our goal of achieving that high population. I mean, having these very, very dense buildings really, really helps achieve that, and allows you to bring a lot of people in your city very quickly, which is probably why they opted for something like this. If you place a lot of people in one area, it makes it very, very easy to provide amenities for those people. Like, you'll notice, oh, here we go, we just reached our metropolis, 40,000. Look at that. But it's cool. You look at these developments and you think like, okay, if you put a lot of people in one area, then you could build these really, really close-knit communities. And you could put a school like I just did there. You could put a little commercial center, and then it's like you have this functional community of a good amount of people all in a very, very small area. So I like that style of building. It definitely suits well for kind of what we're going for here. And like I said, I'm going to continue to mimic that going forward. And I feel like I'm starting to kind of capture the feel that I'm looking for in this build. And I'm really, really excited that I took the time to do a little bit of research and kind of go from there. And so yeah, I realized actually that our education was kind of lacking, and I found this really cool looking Soviet high school there that I just put down. It just looks absolutely perfect in this area, and I'm really, like I said, I'm really liking the way this is coming together. This main road here, this divided one-way avenue with the two one-way roads there, really just making this area look exactly like how I wanted it to look. And I'm so happy with how this turned out. And when we jump into the live play in a second, I actually didn't record all of the build that I did. So when we jump into the live play, you'll see some additional buildings that I put down because I had to go back to the workshop and grab some lower density ones. But in the meantime, just stay tuned while we finish up these couple of details, and then we will jump into the live play. All right, so here we are. Almost 45,000 people. I think we brought about 10,000 people into the city I guess into the region in this episode with this build. So yeah, we really did a lot. And I know the time lapse kind of ended like here, and this is all new. But yeah, I went back, I found some lower density buildings on the workshop that I really liked. These were kind of the smallest ones that I had, and they were still a little bit tall. I wanted to find some, kind of 5-6 story ones that I felt would, make this area a little bit more authentic. But yeah, I'm really liking this. And, I'm going to expand this out kind of over here, fill in this area with something very similar. I need to go back through. I just realized I need to change all of the colors of these buildings to make them all match. But, and fill in some of the corners. I forgot to do that too. Oh man, all types of mistakes today. But yeah, either way, I'm happy with the route that this is going. And so, if we kind of look at this from like a higher view, I mean, that looks very, very much more with the look that we're going for compared to this. And I'm not going to go back and like redo these areas, I don't think. Maybe I will later, but not right at this very moment. And there are still some suburbs or like single family homes in these types of cities, but they look a lot more they're not the grids, there are no like really even grids and everything. in those developments. It's a lot more kind of like just discombobulated and, you know, whatever. So this type of look probably won't be happening much more in the future, but stuff like this will, you know. And a lot of these developments kind of just follow the roads. So, you know, there's a lot of like big main roads, and you know, then all of the apartments will kind of be built according to the shape of the main road. So it's really, really cool. It's a lot less, you know, calculated and everything than or like planned out, I guess, compared to like American cities and everything, you know. Everything, it's just a different approach to city building, and so I really like it. We're gonna keep going with this, and in the next episode, probably gonna focus on, I might fill in a little bit of this off camera just to kind of get this area done for now. But in the next episode, I don't know, I'm really, really tempted to jump over here and start working in this city. I mean, we have this old town here. We can do some work here and fix up some of these buildings with some of these gaps here and stuff. I don't, you know, obviously that's not realistic. We could fix that up a little bit, and I think it'll look a lot better. And we also need to start building out like something over here, maybe like a big housing development and stuff over here. So we'll see what happens. We might actually finally jump into the downtown, but or we might create a new industrial zone, since we have a very, very high demand for industry. I know that I wanted to get all the industry types in here. So we have, you know, the mining over here, we have the farmland over here. We still need to do the oil. That's kind of the next big one that I want to do. So I might build that somewhere over here or something. We'll just have to see. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope that you are enjoying the series, and stay tuned as we slowly chip away at our 100,000 population goal. We're almost halfway there. So only, you know, 12 episodes in. They're really all not that bad. We still got a ways to go though, and a lot left to do in the city aside from just boosting the population. So, you know, stay tuned for some transit focused episode stuff as well. Really, really looking forward to keeping this moving along. So hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Hope you guys were able to see the solar eclipse that happened just yesterday, actually. So yeah, pretty cool event. You know, you don't see those things too often. I mean, it's for some people, you know, maybe it's a once or twice in a lifetime type of thing. So very, very cool if you guys got to see it. If you didn't, go ahead and, you know, check out some pictures and stuff. It's really, really awesome. So anyway, hope you all have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you in the next episode. See ya.